That night, when I saw those eyes reflecting my flashlight in the absolute darkness of the forest, I realized that everything I knew about wildlife was about to change forever. I've been a ranger at Yosemite National Park for 17 years. I know every trail, every sound the forest makes at dawn, every shadow that moves between the sequoias at dusk. I know the difference between a black bear's footprint and a mountain lion's. I know when the silence means danger. But nothing prepared me for what I started documenting 3 winters ago. It was February. The snow had fallen heavy that week, covering the trails in a thick white blanket that recorded everything that moved. I was doing my routine patrol near the Mariposa Grove when I noticed them. Tracks. Large. Feline. 4 distinct toe pads and a heel pad. But the size was wrong. Too big for a bobcat. The spacing too wide for a mountain lion. And then there was the depth. Whatever made those prints was heavy. Powerful. I followed them for nearly a mile. They moved with purpose, crossing open meadows, weaving through dense undergrowth, always heading north toward the high country. And then, at the edge of a frozen creek, they just stopped, as if whatever made them had simply vanished into the mist. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing those tracks in my mind. The way they pressed into the snow. The calculated path they took. The silence that surrounded them. 3 days later, a hiker came into the ranger station. She was shaking. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she held her coffee cup. "There's something out there," she whispered. "Something big. Black." It was watching me from the ridge above Vernal Fall. I felt its eyes on me for 10 minutes before I saw it move. When it did, it didn't run. It just disappeared into the trees. Like smoke. I asked her to describe it. She said it was low to the ground, muscular, moving with a grace that didn't seem natural. She said its eyes reflected gold in the late afternoon sun. She said it looked like a panther. But that's impossible. Black panthers, melanistic jaguars or leopards, don't exist in California. They never have. Not in recorded history. Not according to any official wildlife database. And yet, she wasn't the first person to tell me that story. Over the next 18 months, I started keeping a file. Not an official one. Just notes. Conversations. Testimonies that didn't fit into any checkbox on our incident reports. There was Marcus, a truck driver who ran a route along Highway 140 every week. He told me that twice, he'd seen a massive black cat cross the road near El Portal just after midnight. Both times, my headlights caught it mid-stride. It turned its head and looked at me. I swear to God, Ranger, I've never seen anything move like that. It was there, and then it wasn't. There was Elena, a wildlife photographer who'd been camping near Tuolumne Meadows. She woke at 4 a.m. to a sound she couldn't identify. A low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the ground. She stayed inside her tent, frozen, listening to something circling her campsite for 20 minutes. "I heard its breathing," she told me. "Deep. Controlled. Like it was deciding whether I was worth the effort." When dawn came, she found tracks around her tent. Large paw prints. Claws extended. She never came back to Yosemite. There was David, a forestry technician who worked in the remote northern sections of the park. He'd been taking soil samples near Hetch Hetchy when he saw it on a boulder above him. It was just sitting there, watching me. Black as midnight, tail flicking back and forth. I froze. We stared at each other for maybe 30 seconds. Then it just leapt off the rock and disappeared into the canyon. I didn't hear it land. And then there were the older stories. The ones locals didn't talk about openly but would share over beers at the lodge bar. Ranchers from the 1970s who'd lost livestock to something that killed clean. Throat strikes, massive claw marks, drag patterns that suggested a predator far larger than a cougar. Hunters who'd seen shadows moving through the fog on ridgelines, shapes that were too big, too dark, too deliberate. One elderly woman, a retired schoolteacher from Mariposa, told me her grandfather had seen one in 1952. He called it El Tigre Negro, the black tiger. He said it came down from the high country during bad winters. He said the old Miwok people had stories about it too. They called it a spirit that wore the skin of a cat. I asked her if she believed him. She looked at me with tired eyes and said, "I believe he saw something, and I believe it's still out there." I'm a man of science. I have a degree in wildlife biology. I've studied predator behavior, migration patterns, ecological niches. I know that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So I did what any rational person would do. I researched. Black panthers are melanistic leopards, Panthera pardus, or jaguars, Panthera onca. Melanism is a genetic mutation that causes excess pigmentation. Jaguars are native to Central and South America, with a historical range that extended into the southern U.S., Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. But never California. And certainly not this far north. Leopards are from Africa and Asia. They have no business being in North America at all. The official explanation? Misidentification. People see large black dogs, or shadows, or bears with wet fur that looks darker than usual. Perspective and fear do strange things to perception. Add poor lighting, distance, and adrenaline, and a mule deer can look like a monster. But the tracks don't lie. I sent photos to a colleague at UC Davis, a carnivore specialist. He looked at them for 3 days before calling me back. These are felid tracks. No question. The gait pattern, the toe spread, the claw retraction. It's a big cat. But the size is off. If I didn't know better, I'd say jaguar. But that's impossible. There hasn't been a confirmed jaguar in California since, well, ever. I asked him what else it could be. He paused. An escaped exotic pet? A circus animal? Someone illegally keeping a melanistic leopard that got loose. But that doesn't explain the sightings going back decades. It doesn't explain the consistency of the descriptions. It doesn't explain the intelligence in the behavior. Avoiding trail cameras, moving only at night, hunting in areas with no human presence. And it doesn't explain what I saw. It was late September. The tourist season was winding down. I'd taken a solo patrol into the backcountry, up toward the Cathedral Range. The air was cold, the sky bruised with clouds. I stopped at a clearing near Bud Lake to rest. The silence was absolute. No birds. No wind, just the faint trickle of water over stone. And then I felt it. That primal sensation that every prey animal knows instinctively. The feeling of being watched. I turned slowly, scanning the tree line. Nothing. But the feeling didn't go away. It intensified. I reached for my flashlight, clicked it on, and swept the beam across the forest. And there, 30 yards away, half hidden behind a fallen pine, 2 eyes. Gold. Unblinking. Low to the ground. My breath caught. My hand froze on the flashlight. The eyes didn't move. They just stared. Through me. Into me. I don't know how long we stood there. Seconds. Minutes. Time felt suspended. And then, without a sound, the eyes blinked once and vanished. I rushed to the spot. Found prints in the soft earth. The same prints I'd been seeing for years. But this time I knew. Whatever it was, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a shadow or a trick of the light. It was real. It was here. And it had been here long before any official record said it could be. I still patrol Yosemite. I still document every strange sighting, every unexplained track, every story that doesn't fit the manual. Because somewhere out there, In the high country where the maps run out and the forest remembers older rules, something walks that we've refused to name. Maybe it's a jaguar that wandered too far north. Maybe it's a remnant population of something we thought was extinct. Maybe it's an apex predator we've simply refused to acknowledge because it doesn't fit our understanding of what should be here. Or maybe the forest has always had its secrets, and some of them were never meant to be written down. If they're not supposed to be here, why do so many people still see them?